We now arrive at one of the most concentrated moments in all of Scripture, a verse so dense with meaning that the history of covenant, sacrifice, trauma, and redemption seems to pause and gather its breath within a single gesture. Genesis chapter 22 verse 10 stands at the summit of the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, where the entire narrative of promise is suspended over the edge of apparent annihilation. This is not merely a dramatic scene. It is a theological pressure point where heaven and earth, obedience and terror, love and loss, faith and silence converge into a single irreversible motion. This is one of the most breathtaking, most tension-filled, and most theologically weighty verses in all of Scripture. Genesis chapter 22 verse 10. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. This is not merely a narrative detail. This is the hinge of human history. This is the moment where faith becomes visible, tangible, corporeal. This is where the interior disposition of trust becomes an exterior act that can be measured, witnessed, and remembered. We are going to walk through this verse with the kind of depth and care it deserves. We will examine every word in the original Hebrew. We will trace the grammar and the verb forms. We will explore the theological layers placed upon this moment by the Church Fathers, the mystics, the Reformers, and the modern spiritual theologians. We will situate this verse in its ancient Near Eastern context, understanding the physical realities of desert life, the weight of a father's hand, the gleam of bronze or flint in the sun. We will apply the insights of modern psychology and trauma theory to understand what this moment reveals about human development, attachment, and the journey toward wholeness. And we will see, with laser-like clarity, how this moment is a perfect type, a shadow, a prophetic echo of the sacrificial love of God the Father offering His only Son on the hill of Calvary. So let us begin. The Hebrew text and linguistic architecture. The Hebrew text of Genesis chapter 22 verse 10 reads as follows. Vaishlach Abraham et yado vaikach et hamakheleth lishcho et bano. The verse is stark, stripped of commentary, stripped of emotion words, stripped of explanation. This literary austerity is not accidental. It is itself a form of revelation. The Torah refuses to tell us what Abraham felt because the weight of the moment is carried not by adjectives but by verbs. Action replaces explanation. Obedience replaces speech. Silence replaces justification. Let us pass this sentence word by word, layer by layer, because every syllable carries weight. The first word is vaishlach. This is a imperfect verb, third person masculine singular, with a vav-consecutive, from the root shin lamed chet, meaning to send, to stretch out, to extend. The cult stem is the simplest, most basic action. It communicates that Abraham himself, with his own agency, his own will, his own deliberate movement, stretched out his hand. This is not passive. This is not accidental. This is not coerced. The vav-consecutive structure places this action in a narrative sequence, building momentum. What came before was preparation. What comes now is execution. The narrative grammar is relentless. The repeated vav prefix of the vaiktol forms creates a drumbeat of movement, a steady, irreversible sequence. And he stretched. And he took. And he prepared to slaughter. The syntax does not slow down to offer psychological relief. It does not pause to soften the blow. The grammar presses forward, forcing the hearer to walk step by step with Abraham until there is nowhere left to retreat. This is the language of decisive action, not impulsive action, but action refined by 3 days of walking, thinking, praying, wrestling, and recommitting. By the time Abraham lifts his hand, the decision has already been made countless times within his heart. The verb shalach carries with it connotations not just of physical extension but of commissioning, of sending forth with purpose. When God sends a prophet, the verb is shalach. When a king dispatches an emissary, the verb is shalach. So Abraham is not simply moving his arm. He is commissioning his hand to do the unthinkable. He is sending forth his own limb as an instrument of obedience. When we return to the word vaishlach, we must uncover its deeper morphological resonance. The root shin lamed chet is not only the basis for sending, but it is the etymological father of the word shalach, which in later Hebrew and New Testament Greek becomes apostolos, or apostle. In this moment, Abraham's hand is the first apostle of the new covenant. It is a sent hand. It is a hand that no longer belongs to the man but has been commissioned by the word. The grammar here uses the vav-consecutive to show that this is not a new or sudden impulse, but the inevitable unfolding of a divine logic that began with the words lech lecha in chapter 12. Abraham is being sent out again, but this time the journey is not to a new land. The journey is to the edge of human comprehension, to the boundary of what can be endured. Next, we encounter et yado. Et is the direct object marker, signaling total focus, and yado means his hand. The word yad in Hebrew is rich with meaning. It refers to the physical hand, yes, but it also represents power, authority, agency, and the means by which one acts in the world. When scripture says the hand of the Lord was upon someone, it means divine power and presence. When it says the hand of the king was heavy, it means oppressive rule. So Abraham's hand here is not just flesh and bone. It is the instrument of his will. It is the extension of his inner commitment. It is the bodily manifestation of his covenant loyalty to God. Abraham is not merely reaching out. He is sending his hand forward as an offering of agency itself. The hand, yado, is marked with the direct object indicator et, signaling total focus. In ancient Hebrew anthropology, the hand represents power, capability, inheritance, and legacy. To stretch out the hand is to extend one's entire life project. Abraham's covenantal future is not merely threatened. It is being actively placed upon the altar by the very instrument that once protected, fed, and guided his son. In the Septuagint, the ancient Greek translation, the word for hand is chera, which in the Greek anatomical tradition refers not just to the palm, but to the entire reaching mechanism of the arm. It is a total extension of the being. This is not a tentative gesture. This is a full-bodied, full-souled reaching. The Masoretic cantillation mark here is a tipcha, a disjunctive accent that creates a slight pause, allowing the reader to linger on the gravity of this gesture. The ancient rabbis understood that the pause was not merely musical but theological. It invited the listener to stop and contemplate. What does it mean for a father to stretch out his hand toward his son in this way? The Masoretic cantillation deepens the drama. The accentual pattern, often including a zakef katon in this region of the verse, introduces a vertical pause, a momentary suspension in the melody. The Torah itself seems to hesitate. The music holds the breath of the community, training the listener to endure tension without immediate resolution. In public chanting, the sound lingers just long enough to allow dread to surface before the narrative moves forward. This is liturgical pedagogy. Israel is taught how to wait in terror without fleeing from God. Next comes vayikach. Another kal imperfect with vav consecutive, from the root lamed kof chet, meaning to take, to grasp, to seize. But let us go deeper into the sonic and pictographic layers of this verb. The root is built on the letters lamed, kof, and chet. In the ancient pictographic Hebrew, the lamed represents a shepherd's staff or authority. The kof represents the back of the head or a horizon. The chet represents a fence or a wall. Together, they suggest an authority that reaches the horizon and hits a wall. Abraham has reached the boundary of human existence. He is standing at the edge of what is possible, at the limit of what can be endured. The verb lakach in the cult stem represents an act of grasping that is irrevocable. This is not tentative. This is not hesitant. This is decisive, final, complete. Again, this is active, deliberate, personal. Abraham took the knife. The verb is the same used when Eve took the fruit in Genesis chapter 3 verse 6. The verb is the same used when Moses took the tablets of the law. Taking, in biblical Hebrew, is always a decisive act. It is the transition from contemplation to commitment, from intention to action. Abraham's hand has moved. Now his fingers close around the handle. The next phrase is et maakheleth. The direct object marker et signals importance. And the word maakheleth is rare and specific. It appears only a few times in the Hebrew Bible. It means knife, but more precisely, a ritual slaughtering knife. The root is akal, which means to eat or consume. So maakheleth is etymologically connected to the act of preparing food, of making something edible. This is not a weapon of war. This is not a dagger for self-defense. This is a tool for sacrifice. It is a knife used to cut the throat of an animal so that its blood can be drained and its flesh can be offered to God or consumed in a sacred meal. The use of this specific term signals that Abraham is not committing murder in his mind. He is performing a sacred act. He is offering a sacrifice. This is worship, not violence. This is obedience, not cruelty. The object Abraham takes is maakheleth, the knife, a rare and ominous term. Its root, akal, means to eat, to consume. This is not a neutral cutting tool. It is a devourer. In scripture, this word appears almost exclusively in contexts of extreme violence and moral darkness. It is the blade that consumes life. Mystically, the addition of the definite article ha and the mem prefix marks it as a designated instrument, a specific vessel of consumption. Zoharic tradition, the mystical commentary of Jewish Kabbalah, notes resonances between maakheleth and malach, salt, the substance of covenant preservation. Salt stings. Salt purifies. Salt preserves through painful extraction. The knife becomes the salt of the covenant, ensuring that what occurs on the altar is sanctification, not murder. Now let us examine the very phonetics and musicality of this word. The digesh, the small dot of emphasis in the letter mem of maakheleth, functions as a doubling of the sound. It creates a percussive effect in the mouth of the reader. Ham maakheleth. Listen to the sound. Ham maakheleth. This doubling signals the intensity of the grip. It is not a casual holding. It is a clenching, a tightening, a focusing of all physical and spiritual energy into this one moment. The Masoretic tradition preserves the musicality of this verse through the trop, the cantillation marks. We find here a sequence that mirrors a staircase descending into a valley. The pitch drops as the action reaches its peak. The melody creates a sonic landscape of descent, of lowering, of moving toward the nadir of human experience. There is also an audible pun, a wordplay that the ancient Hebrew ear would have caught immediately. There is a phonetic resonance between the word for knife, maakheleth, and the word for kingdom, malkhut. The mystical implication is profound. The knife is the scepter of the kingdom of heaven. To hold the knife is to hold the authority of God over life and death. To raise the blade is to exercise divine sovereignty in the human realm. This is not just a father with a tool. This is a priest with the instrument of cosmic adjudication. By taking the knife, Abraham is laying hold of the severe wisdom of the kingdom. The cantillation mark known as the Gershayim, which looks like two strokes, is sometimes found in this narrative sequence to indicate a sense of being driven or cast out. Abraham is being cast out of the realm of human reasoning and into the realm of pure, naked faith. Phonetically, the verse is rough and constricted. The clustering of guttural and emphatic consonants in maakheleth and lish-cho produces a choking quality when spoken aloud. The sounds catch in the throat, mirroring the embodied horror of the act. Yet the verse ends with Bano, his son, dissolving into a softer vowel, almost like an exhale. The soundscape itself moves from tension to vulnerability, from hardness to exposed relationship. The blade rises, but the final word reminds us who lies beneath it. The Septuagint, the ancient Greek translation, renders maakheleth as macheron, a short sword or large knife. The Septuagint uses phaki for to slaughter, a term saturated with sacrificial and apocalyptic overtones, later echoed in Revelation where the lamb stands as if slain, is phagmenon. The Vulgate uses cultrum for knife, which is a sacrificial blade. The Vulgate chooses imalea for to slaughter, emphasizing consecration. Across languages, the act is framed not as chaos but as liturgy. This is not the abandonment of covenant order. It is its terrifying extremity. Both translations emphasize the ritual, cultic nature of this instrument. The Church Fathers will later reflect that the knife Abraham held was a type of the nails that pierced Christ, of the spear that opened his side, of the instruments of the Passion that became instruments of salvation. Now we come to the purpose clause. Lish-cho. This is an infinitive construct, from the root shin chet tet, meaning to slaughter, to kill in a ritual manner. This is the same verb used throughout Leviticus for the slaughtering of sacrificial animals. It is a technical term. It is priestly language. Abraham is not stabbing. He is not striking. He is slaughtering, which means he is cutting the throat in the prescribed manner to drain the blood and honor the life being offered. The verb lish-cho, to slaughter, is the technical term for ritual sacrifice. It is never used for homicide. The Torah is careful here. Abraham is not portrayed as a murderer but as a priest. In the ancient world, blood was understood to be the carrier of life itself. Leviticus chapter 17 verse 11 will later say, "The life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make atonement for your souls." So when Abraham raises the knife to slaughter, he is participating in a cosmic exchange. He is about to release the life of his son back to the God who gave it. This is the grammar of faith. This is the syntax of surrender. Finally, we read et bano, his son. The direct object marker et again, emphasizing the one being acted upon. Bano, his son, from the root ben, meaning son, child, descendant. But notice what is not said. The text does not say Isaac here. It does not say the lad. It does not say the beloved. It simply says his son. This grammatical choice is intentional. It universalizes the moment. It strips away all the particular affection, all the covenantal promises, all the names and nicknames and tender memories, and reduces the relationship to its most elemental form. This is a father and a son. This is the archetypal relationship. And in this reduction, the text invites every father, every mother, every parent, every human being who has ever loved another, to enter into this moment. This is not just Abraham's story. This is the human story. This is the story of what it means to hold the thing you love most and offer it back to God. The Masoretic cantillation marks over this verse create a rhythmic pattern that the ancient cantors would have sung in the synagogue. The melody rises and falls, creating suspense. There is a pause before the knife is mentioned. There is a breath before the word slaughter. The oral tradition understood that this verse was meant to be heard, not just read. It was meant to be felt in the body. The congregation would have leaned forward. The children would have held their breath. The elders would have closed their eyes. Because everyone knew what came next. Or thought they did. This completes our deep exploration of the linguistic architecture of Genesis chapter 22 verse 10. We have walked through every word, every letter, every sound, every grammatical structure. We have heard the Hebrew in its original music. We have traced the verb forms and the pictographic meanings. We have seen how the ancient translations interpreted and deepened the meaning. And we have begun to sense the weight, the gravity, the cosmic significance of this single verse. In our next video, we will enter the physical world of Abraham. We will examine the knife itself, the bronze and flint, the handle and the blade. We will climb the mountain of Moriah. We will feel the wind, the heat, the dust. We will explore the ancient Near Eastern context, the legal structures, the household dynamics, the cultural realities that shaped this moment. And we will continue to allow this verse to reshape our souls. If this teaching has begun to stir something in your heart, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Like this video so that others can discover this depth of scriptural exploration. Share it with someone who is hungry for the word, who wants to go deeper, who wants to encounter God in the text. And if you have questions, if you need prayer, if you want to connect, you can reach out to us at christ4life143@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. We would love to walk with you on this journey. Stay tuned for the next video. Join us next time as we continue verse by verse.